Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. For those of you that made it, I really appreciate you being here. And for those of you that are coming back, this is a weekly installment now. Thank you for joining us again. Love to do this with y'all. And today in this session, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about how to pick a profitable niche. And there's a lot of layers to that. There's the layer of choosing something that you're personally interested in, where you're going to be incentivized to create content for the coming months and, yes, years, because it does take years to build an audience and to grow a business around a blog, a YouTube channel, podcast, whatever sort of your creation medium of choice is. It does take time. So there's some layers to this. We're going to be talking about how to choose topics that align with what your interests are and kind of helps you enable your skills, your experiences, your lived examples, the things that you bring to the table uniquely as a person. So there's that layer. And then there's the profitability piece, the piece of how to make sure I'll be able to make money within this niche at some point once I build an audience and figure out how to monetize with my crew. So there's some layers to this we're going to dig into, and hopefully we will have time to also build out a bit of a rough content plan. Now, I want to use your real examples. So I see y'all already chiming into the chat. You rule. Just Steve is here. Andy, my steady Andy. Carolyn, Terminator Huz. Love it. Thank you guys for being here. And I'd love to hear just where you're tuning in from in the world. I love to start this off by just getting a sense of where y'all are watching from. It'll help give me some context for where you're coming from. So I'd love to hear from you in the chat if you have the opportunity to chime in. Tell me where you're watching from. I'm here in my own studio here in Salida, Colorado, up in the mountains, as per usual. And today I'm pretty excited. I'm actually going to go to Red Rocks Amphitheater, one of the coolest, most unique music venues in the world, in my opinion. And I'm seeing the band Lord Huron tonight. So I'm pretty stoked. Today's a good day for me. Bringing the good energy here. I love this. So Jill from Austin. Yeah, what's up, Jill? Tavis, my man, I love to see it. I love this. UK, England, Boise, Idaho, Jerry, nice. Steve in New Orleans, oh, I love it. Lisa in Baltimore, Vancouver, yes, I love to see this modern therapy here. We got you queued up as one of my examples once we get to the Q&A session for today. Pennsylvania, Ethiopia, wow, Teddy, thank you for joining from Ethiopia, so awesome. Florida. Oh yeah. You guys rule. Danielle. Yes. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. So as we were sort of starting with at the top here, we're going to begin with picking a profitable niche, what my research process looks like, how I like to go about choosing the niche for a blog, a YouTube channel, a podcast. That creation medium doesn't matter so much as long as you're choosing the right kinds of topics that align with what your interests are and have real profit potential. So we will be digging into that. Then we'll be building out a content plan. And right now in the comments, I'm going to drop you the link to my editorial calendar template. This is the spreadsheet that I use for planning out my content calendar. Now, if you can't click that link right away, you can just copy and paste it into your browser and it'll open up in a Google chat or a Google Sheet rather. And this Google Sheet, you'll be able to go to File, make a copy and make your own private copy of this sheet. This is how I like to plan out my own content process. So if we can get to that, we will. I'm going to reserve the last 20 minutes for Q&A. At least, let's hope we can do more than 20 minutes. That'd be ideal. Maybe able to stick around a little bit longer here from the top of the hour and do some more Q&A. So Q&A, I absolutely love. It's usually my favorite part of these sessions. So there's no wrong time to ask a question. If you have a question that you came here with, pop it into the chat and I will prioritize it when we get to the Q&A section. If something comes up as I am showing my screen and doing some demos and walking you through the process here today, I will do my best to catch those questions as they arrive and answer them contextually while I'm doing something. But again, no wrong time to ask a question. Please ask away in the chat anytime something comes up. So I think that gets us started here. Let's dive in to picking a profitable niche. Now, what I want to do to make this more interesting and I think more valuable for you guys is I would love to use some of your real life examples. So if you have a niche that you're already creating content in, or you're considering a profitable niche, you're trying to find what that is for you, I want to help some of y'all live here today. So if you can pop into the chat and tell me, what is the niche that you'd either like to create content around or where you're already creating content and you want to make sure, hey, this niche does have legs moving into the future. So I'm going to give you all 30 seconds to a minute to pop into the comments and leave me suggestions on niches that we could cover, that we could validate here live today. And Terminator Huz asks a wonderful question. What is a niche? My gosh. I love this. So a niche is a set of topics that you yourself are going to be covering. And so when you think about something like my blog, if you've been to my blog, ryrob.com, my niche is talking about blogging. I teach blogging. I teach everything that falls under that niche category of blogging. And that includes things like writing, marketing, monetizing a blog, driving traffic to a blog. There's a lot of things that roll into a niche, and we'll be digging into that using some different examples from y'all here today. Examples of other niches could be things like personal finance. It could be a food blog, and ideally you would niche down, get more specific within food blogging, and perhaps you would do something like plant-based cooking or gosh, it's really endless potential here, but I like niches that are very clear. Personal finance is an interesting one. Investing could be an interesting one. Fitness is more of a category, and choosing a niche within a category like fitness could be something like weight loss or building muscle, strength training. These are all sort of just different little examples of what a niche could be. And I do really well with specifics rather than hypotheticals, so I'm interested in seeing here in the chat. All right, my niche is editing. So editing, that's a really interesting one here because I don't know what that means. When I look at editing, I'm not sure editing what? Editing writing, video editing, podcast editing? Like there's a ton of different avenues that you could take editing down. So editing would be more of a category and a niche would be something specific within that. And the entire premise behind choosing a really clear niche is to make yourself an expert within this field. Ideally, it's something that you're interested in and you have expertise or some experience, or you at least have the level of interest that you're interested and committed to becoming an expert in that field. Because people want to learn from other people who are great at what they do. So that's kind of the premise behind a niche. Psychotherapy services, boosting self-confidence. This is a great niche. So I even think something like psychotherapy services could be considered a niche because there's a lot that rolls into that. And boosting self-confidence, in my opinion, would be a category that rolls into the overall niche. Travel to Rome and day trips outside the city. So traveling to Rome, that would be an example of a topic to be covered within a travel blog. And within a travel blog as a category, a niche within that would be something like solo traveling or traveling with kids or budget traveling. Those are all examples of niches. So we're going to keep going here and we're going to find the right one. How to grow inner strength. I love that. I think that's a really good niche. I'm going to flag this one as a potential that we might do. Wellness, self-care, and mindfulness. That's great too. I really like that as a niche. Let me see here. Making football edits. Okay, that's a great niche. Making football edits. I'm assuming that this means video edits, clips of videos from football. Lifestyle blog over 50. That's a good niche too. I like that. Employment law and privacy. Lisa, I do like that. Employment law, that's super fascinating. Yes, that's a good niche. I think that especially if you're coming from a legal background yourself, or you know people that are in that space, then you have the real, like you have expertise, you have authority, and that's kind of the winning combination for approaching a niche here. Steve, you got weight loss. That's a good one. Anti-inflammatory lifestyle via herbalism, Carolyn. I like that. Samara, sewing. Yes, this is good too. Okay, so we are getting some really good niches in here, everybody. Thank you. I'm going to cruise through a few more of these. People who love coffee and the great outdoors, Danielle. So that's an audience to me. People who love coffee, people who love the outdoors. That's an audience. And a niche would be something like a blog that's all about coffee or a blog that's all about the great outdoors. So one of my blogs that I haven't published on for a couple of years now is hikewithryan.com. It's a hiking blog. That's my niche for that site. Hiking content. And I have a bunch of different content on that site. I talk about my favorite hiking books, which has monetization potential. It drives sales on Amazon for when people want to pick up one of the books that I recommend. I have hiking boots that I recommend. There's a bunch of gear recommendations on there. That's a content category within my niche site about hiking. So these are all things to consider here. Let's keep going. Technical writing and cloud computing, Amazon Fire TV, Apple iPad. Okay, so Apple iPad and Amazon Fire TV, those are specific products. I'm not quite sure if you can build an entire content ecosystem around just individual products. Now, there's an interesting hypothesis to be made there. If you're going to create a ton of tutorial-based content and do product reviews and stuff like that, perhaps those could be useful, but instead of something like just an individual specific product, I would think more about like what's a specific niche within the technology space that you could cover where you would give yourself the ability to talk about these kinds of products in some of your content. Pickleball, yes. Okay, so pickleball is actually a fantastic niche because it's a topic that's growing in popularity still, especially in the US. Everyone I know is playing pickleball. Everyone wants to play pickleball. So that's a very good example of a niche. Now, let me go back and choose one here. I really like, okay, so I love wellness, self-care, mindfulness. This is a great example of a niche, and I'm going to choose this one because it also resonates with what I'm interested in personally. I spend a lot of time on what self-care, mindfulness, wellness means to me. So let's use this Pratibha as an example. Let me just pull this up here. Okay. So we got this on the screen, wellness, self-care, and mindfulness. We're going to use this one for our first example. If we can get to some more, we definitely will, but let's get started. So once I have chosen a potential niche, again, remember, this is potential. I want to make sure that there's going to be a real market for it. Will people be searching for content on these topics? Do people want to watch videos or listen to podcasts or read blog posts, get advice, learn things in this space? And this is here, this page we're on is ryrob.com/tools. This is where all of my free tools are for people who are doing content creation, researching. No matter if you're a blogger, a YouTuber, or podcaster, there's a lot of free tools for you to use here. So I wanted to just showcase this page for y'all and recommend that you get the absolute most value you can out of using my free tools. Let me drop the link into the comments here for y'all. 1 second. Okay, so there's that link. Now, again, anytime you have questions, please, please, please ask in the comments. There's no wrong time to do it. So let's use this example again of wellness, mindfulness, self-care. This is kind of this amorphous set of topics that we want to sharpen into a really clear niche. So the first thing that I'll usually do is I will come to some sort of keyword research tool, and I'm going to just use the free one here on my blog. And I want to just type in, let's see what happens when we type in all of those terms at the same time. Wellness, mindfulness, and self-care. Whoops, self-fair. Ha. See if I can type today. So let's just see what happens. I'm not really sure. I usually do one query at a time, but this is super interesting to me. So we got some really funky results. Wells Fargo Bank, which is hilarious to me because, AI tools, they hallucinate all the time. Let's just simplify it, go down to self-care, and let's see what happens. So giving the AI tools too much info can sometimes make them go a little bit crazy. So here we go. We got self-care. And what we're getting here is we're getting what keyword research suggests in Google searches are really common terms that people are searching. And we got a lot of quote related queries here, which is super interesting. So we get straight to really specific content ideas. Now, what I would like to do is I would like to back out a little bit when we're at this stage. When the results we see from keyword research are just very specific for a particular niche that we're researching, and again, we got tons of ideas on how to approach writing about quotes for self-care here. So I would bookmark this, and I'd say that what's going to be more interesting is going to a tool like what we have inside WriteBlogger. And again, these tools you can also use for free. You can make a free account on WriteBlogger and use these tools at least 2 to 3 times a month for free. Now, I want to go to what my favorite tool is here, the keyword cluster tool. So let's just type in self-care here. Again, keeping it simple, not giving too much here. And we're going to come up with a whole bunch of different topics and categories that you could pursue within this self-care niche. And we're seeing some really good, interesting, juicy stuff here. There's general self-care, there's mental health and wellness, which I think rolls into this niche you were considering already. There's physical self-care, and then we got special, like especially broken down stuff for women and men. And then we've got products, which again, this is some good monetizable content right here. Self-care gifts, self-care kits, essentials. These are the kinds of things that you could monetize with affiliate programs. So whether we're talking about Amazon's affiliate program or something else entirely, you could have links that compensate you when someone makes a purchase from one of the products you recommend. Self-care on a budget, self-care for different ages, self-care and personal development. There's a lot of good stuff here. Wow. Okay. So this right here, this gives me a really clear sense for what some of these categories could be within this broader topic range. So what I would like to do, once I have a cluster developed, I would then come to either keyword research or to Google search. Google search is often going to teach us a lot about how much demand there is within a particular space by gleaning insights from what you see in the search results. So let's come back here. Let me grab one of these topic areas, because again, the goal here is not to create a 100% sure sense that, yes, I will guaranteed make money from creating content in this niche. What we're looking for is to just make sure that there's an audience and that there's clear purchase intent. Now, from my perspective, seeing these recommendations, self-care products, like this already tells me, and I already had a sense going into this, that people are willing to spend money on this. And self-care is a really important topic. It's something that a lot of people will have a budget for in their lives, or, when they can, they will spend on different self-care activities. They fall into different buckets, of course, physical, mental, etc. But you're almost guaranteed to have a paying audience for this kind of content. So what we want to do is we want to maybe just take 1 or 2 of these broader categories and just type them into Google search and start gathering some more insights from what we see. Now, I really, really like the idea of focusing a blog, a YouTube channel, a podcast, specifically around a really clear audience. So picking, say, self-care for women, self-care for men, that could be a really good focal point for your site. So let's just use the example, since I am a man, I will use self-care for men as an example of a niche that we want to validate. So let's just type in self-care for men. And before you hit enter on that search, we want to see what Google is recommending here. So under this dropdown, self-care for men, self-care for mental health, right? So it picks up that search, and there's some really interesting stuff here. So self-care for mental health workers is also like, that's a really interesting niche to me too. So we're already seeing some cool insights. Now, if you were a mental health worker, or you have experience or exposure to a lot of mental health workers yourself, that to me seems like a really fantastic niche if that calls you out. And again, a niche, it's composed of topics that there is an audience for and can be monetized, and it's a really clear audience that you're reaching. You know who your people are. Those are the two biggest important components of a successful niche. Now, we've got some other stuff here: self-care for men ideas, self-care for men gifts. There's some good stuff here. Self-care for men book, right? So we're getting a sense of what people already search for, but I want to just type this search in, and let's see what happens in Google search results. Now, there's so much happening on a Google search result page that we can really gather some impactful insights about. So we can see here the top ranking site on self-care for men. This is a site we probably want to learn from. So I'll open that in a new tab, and we'll check that out in a little bit. Now, some of the things that I scanned for to gather some insights here is these things over here. We've got ideas for men. We've got best self-care for men. How should a man take care of himself? Guys, self-care items for guys. That's hilarious. We've got a book under this title, Self-Care for Men, right? That's super interesting. And then here, never overlook the people also ask section. This is where you're going to get some incredible insights about what it is people are searching for within this topic area. So when you open one of these, this is really important here. When you open one of these, it also impacts all of the remaining people also ask queries below it. So you can see that some more appeared here. But when you open this, what is the best self-care for men? That's a really interesting blog topic to me. And then we've got, these activities: exercise, proper nutrition, adequate sleep, mindfulness practices, engaging in hobbies, activities that bring joy and relaxation, right? So that's interesting. This might be a piece of content that you could glean some inspiration from if you wanted to pull this open in a new tab and consider that. But let's collapse that and then look at a couple more of these. How to improve male mental health? How do I take care of myself as a man? Honestly, all of these questions I'm seeing here are great individual content items. So I would bookmark some of these. I would pull them into my content calendar and maybe drop in these topics right here as potential ideas, right? And we would probably want to categorize them as ideas, put them under the not approved yet, right? But let's just grab one of these examples here and pull it in. So how do I take care of myself as a man? How do I take care of myself as a man? And again, this is an idea, right? So on the individual level, we'll come back to this. I know we're jumping around a little bit, but we'll come back to this and do some individual keyword research once we sort of validate that this niche has a clear audience and a profit potential. And what we want to do is we want to quantify how many people, roughly, do we think are in this audience or are searching for these kinds of terms and topics where me as a man with experience in self-care can offer up my advice, my expertise, my recommendations. So we're going to scan this page again. We're going to keep scanning. We can see these options here. At home is a suggestion, products, mental health, quotes, PDF, GIFs, emotional checklist. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff here. And when we click one of these, we get a very specific result, self-care checklist for men. How about that? That's pretty awesome. This is a really cool piece of content that I would create if I were going to be in this niche. And again, on all of these search terms, we get really interesting insights by really just spending time and slowing down and scrolling, looking at what people are talking about on these forums like Reddit, like Quora, seeing how other blogs approach this, looking at the different types of sites that are ranking for this kind of content. So you see WebMD here. That is a massive website, like a top 100 website in the world in terms of traffic and authority. And so the fact that they are pursuing content on this topic, right? They rank number 2 for just self-care for men. The fact that they're pursuing content on this topic almost acts as a guarantee that there's a monetizable audience here and a big, meaningful audience. This is interesting. So this is a blog. This is a blog that's ranking high for self-care for men. That tells me that while this topic may be competitive, that there is room for individual content creators, people who are like yourself, to actually make a dent in this space. It may take time, as all good things do, but the possibility's there. So again, seeing Amazon up here on this first result, or this first page of results, seeing Amazon have this is a book, I believe, but seeing that one of their results is up there is a really interesting insight. Healthline is a site that I'm familiar with, and they're going to have some great inspiration too. So we'll pull that open in a new tab and we'll check that out later. Psychology Today, how male neglect of self-care affects their partners. That's interesting. And again, the people also ask, we'll have another section usually towards the bottom of some of these searches. What is the best skincare routine for men? So there's a lot of different angles that you could approach here, content categories, right? And so what we're really trying to glean here is, again, do people spend money on this, and is there a big audience for it? So let me just come back to one of my tools inside WriteBlogger that I like for figuring out audience size, right? So keyword research tool, let's type this back in, self-care for men. Now that we've sharpened this as kind of our niche that we want to guarantee real people are searching for, and how many? Let's figure that out, right? So what we see here when we run this keyword search is that we get a ton of options, right? I'm just going to do a quick scroll and we can see here, like, there's a lot of stuff in here. So my first gut reaction is, oh, we've got a ton of ground we can cover in here. And what I'll usually want to do is I'll want to sort by volume, check out some of these terms, sort by competition, see which ones appear easy, which ones appear difficult. Cost per click is how much it'll cost if you run ads for these kinds of keyword terms, an estimate of how much it will. And again, this is to verify that we do have an audience here. And so I think, what's important to know is that we see, just from a quick scan collectively, there's pretty obviously gonna be an audience for just this specific search, self-care for men. Just this specific search is giving us well over 5,000 to 10,000 in estimated monthly searches happening on just these terms right here on the first, 100 most relevant terms to self-care for men. That does not even factor in all of the related terms that are going to be, mental health care, wellness. There's going to be a lot of really interesting smaller topics. Again, coming back to our cluster results that roll into that. And again, one of the benefits of using WriteBlogger is that you have a content dashboard where everything you create is always saved, so you can just come right back to it. So this self-care for men, I want to sharpen this one, self-care for men. Let's do a cluster for self-care for men now. And this is going to give us a much more clear set of recommendations on how we would want to approach this topic. So picking a niche that's profitable. Again, there's a science piece to it. which is just making sure that you see a lot of search results and that there are legit sites going after attracting this audience. Now, you can do the keyword research, do a keyword cluster, spend some real time with this, type in all of these different search terms. I don't want to bore you here on our limited time together, but type in all of these individual search terms into the keyword research tool and get a real sense for what the size of this audience is. Now, keyword research, it's always going to be just directionally useful. There's no way to pin down the exact size of the audience of men who are interested in self-care. You could argue that the target audience for this is just men, right? And there's a lot of men in the world who are online and consuming content, but I would want to sharpen that a little bit more. I would say like even focusing if let's say you're in a particular country, if you're based in the US or the UK or Australia, Europe, somewhere like that, focusing on a specific audience of men for self-care and everything that rolls into that, right? Mental health, physical health, general self-care, grooming and skincare, emotional well-being, lifestyle and habits, relationships, hobbies, personal development, financial wellness, career and professional growth. This is a fantastic niche here. And coming back to what I was saying about the blend of science and art here, there's a piece that is always going to be art when it comes to picking a niche that is going to be profitable for you. Now, what this tells me from all the research we just did in 15, 20 minutes or so, is that I have a pretty good sense that yes, there's a really active audience here that is searching for stuff related to self-care for men, and they are willing to pay for it, right? Things like therapy are often out-of-pocket expenses, at least here in the US, unfortunately. Now, you can get healthcare to cover it in some cases, right? But I've always had to pay out of pocket for the therapist that I wanted to see. So this is another thing where you could recommend different, like there's I think it's called is it called Betterment? No, there's some apps out there, some really good therapy apps that you could recommend, and they have affiliate programs. So there's lots of ways within each of these subcategories in this niche of self-care for men to tackle different topics that have monetization potential, whether you're recommending products or services, or you're teaching your own courses, you have your own books. Look at, again, coming back to our Google searches, right? Look at the ways people on this individual search engine result page are already monetizing. And one of the examples here is this freaking book right here that's called Self-Care for Men, right? How to look good and feel great. So just looking at this on Amazon, even seeing the different categories, right? Advice on mind, body, and spirit. Those are 3 categories within self-care for men. And perhaps you would even want to pull up this book and look at the chapters within it. What are the sections, the main topics that this author is covering? Clearly, this author is making some money from the book, right? We've got 159 ratings. That's something that's done decently well on Amazon for a book, I'd say. But my hunch would be that Garrett Muntz is probably someone who is a creator in this space and is also monetizing in other ways. So look at the ways that other creators in your space are already monetizing. That will give you a clear sense for how you can do it. And depending on how open those creators are, maybe they even talk about the different ways that they monetize their audience. So again, this is less of a scientific step-by-step process and more of an art feel process. So I would consider this niche, personally, I would consider this validated. If you want to pursue this one in particular, I think you're going to have, if you did the same thing for women, if you focused on women, self-care for women, I think you're going to have pretty much the same experience from this research process. And again, spend that 15 to 20 minutes with it and just try and really slow yourself down. Put yourself in the shoes of a person who is seeking the advice, the help on these topics, and you'll really be able to gather some clear insights about how you can produce content that's going to genuinely help people in this space. And then from there, you will be able to, as you grow an audience, you will be able to monetize with them. And I like to ask my audience always for the best ways that I could monetize with them. Ask them for what products they need, what services they need, what help you can offer them. And doing something like hosting live Q&A sessions is a great way to gather some more of those insights too. So talk to other people in the space. If you know people who are working in this space of self-care for men or one of these categories, right? If you know an esthetician, if you know someone who is a fitness coach, like these are the kinds of ways that you can really continue to validate out this niche. Now, what I would like to do, let me see. I don't have enough room on my screen for all the things going on here. So I'm missing some comments, I know, but thank y'all for really being active here. I'm going to take a quick second to answer some of these quick questions here. Yes, this is going to be recorded. So when this is finished, you'll be able to catch up and watch the recording. Yes. How do you find good niches? Okay, Demetrius, this is a very good question. How do I find good niches for content? Oops, you can't even see that. So let me show you. Let me get just me happening here. So Demetrius asks, how do I find good niches for content? Now, this is a pretty important little point here that I want to double click on. So a good niche is something that, yes, has real demand, has people who are clearly monetizing this niche from doing this 15, 20-minute research process. You can see, all right, there's sites that are monetizing clearly, and there's a lot of people, seemingly a lot of people that are in this niche. Now, a good niche has anywhere between, when you do the keyword cluster and start plugging in each of those individual searches, you want to really make sure that you can see the potential for a site that can drive somewhere between 100,000 on the low end readers per month into the millions at the very least. Because the reality is you're unlikely to capture that audience size of millions of people coming to your website per week, your YouTube channel, your podcast per month rather. That's an unrealistic goal, at least for your first couple of years. It does take time to build an audience, but you want to see that there's the potential there. So there's audience, there's monetization capabilities, and then the most important part, number 3, is that you, as the creator, can see yourself wanting to create content in this space for months and years to come. If you choose a niche that is only a money-making opportunity in your mind, I can promise you, because I've done this myself, I can promise you that you will burn out. You will lose interest in creating content in that space if you're only motivated by money. You have to personally be interested in the content at hand here. If you can't actually turn on a camera or get on your microphone or write a blog post or be present on social media in discussion forums, if you can't do that from a place of genuine interest and joy in interacting with other people within this space about these topics, then I can guarantee you that you will burn out. Even if you have a spark of inspiration and you have a bunch of motivation to get started with it, really pay attention to your feelings as you get deeper into this niche, as you create your 10th blog post or your 5th video or your 15th podcast episode. How are you feeling about this niche you chose? Does it still feel right? Are you running out of things to say? Do you want to continue talking about this stuff? These are the kinds of things to really pay attention to. And it can take time to figure out the answers to that, but that's okay. It's part of the process. The right answer is always the right answer for you. So if your answer is after, 2-3 months of trying out a particular niche, if the answer is, hey, I don't think I really like this anymore, that's the right answer. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think tracking your own interests over time in a space is a pretty important thing to do. Be honest with yourself. Be real. If you find yourself creating content in a niche that you're not energized by, that's an early sign that it's time to look at ways you can pivot or reinvigorate yourself. Is there a different medium you could create content in that would bring you more energy on these same topics? Could you potentially start interviewing people in this space? Could you bring in other contributors to your blog? Would that energize you? So there's a lot of factors here to consider, but you'll always know inside, somewhere, even if it takes you time, you will know inside if the niche you chose is actually aligned with your own interests. And again, ideally, it's a space that you also have some skills, some expertise, or at least experience in. There's nothing wrong with starting to create content in a niche that is brand new to you, but you have to, at the very least, be really interested and motivated to learn in that space, to become an expert at some of the things within that space. And again, that takes time. There's no shortcuts here, but pay attention to your feelings. Funny we chose self-care and we're talking about feelings here, huh? All right, so let me cruise. Oh, you got BetterHelp. Aha, thank you for that. BetterHelp, I love it. Demetrius, how can you talk to me one-on-one? I don't do a ton of one-on-one stuff anymore, just to be honest with you. But if you want to shoot me an email to ryan@rightblogger.com, we might be able to figure something out. My time is usually spent on doing things like this these days, but please do. Catching up on our questions here. Are the searches on Right Blogger for US? There's actually a way to, let's go to the keyword search tool. So there's actually a way to set the country field. Oop, I'm not even showing my screen here. Too many things going on, Ryan. All right, so let's come back to my screen. So when you are doing a search in keyword research, you can toggle the country. And so we've got, I think we have essentially every country in the world here, and you'll be able to select those results. You can also select target language, and you'll get different language outputs for the keyword research as well. I don't think we have both of these options, country, on the keyword cluster tool, but this is a fantastic feature that Andy, since you're watching, we will add to our queue to consider adding the country qualifier to this keyword cluster tool. I think that'll be very useful. Okay, let's pop back to just me here and then cruise through the chat a little more. All right. Is it okay to use these ideas from people also ask exactly as the blog title? Yes. Such a good question. So is it good? Is it smart to use those exact queries under the people also ask for blog titles? Yes. That is like literally the point of looking at those kinds of insights. You will gather some fantastic keyword ideas. Now, I would probably plug those people also ask questions into a keyword research tool and just make sure that there's a decent amount of search for them. But the fact that you're seeing them already there, that pretty much validates that yes, people are also searching for these kinds of things. And so producing a piece of content, a video, a blog post, whatever it is, that's an exact match for that question is the move. I do this all the time. I'll show you just one example of this here on my site. Let's see. My gosh, so many things going on my screen. Are keyword tools reliable? So this article, whoops, I'm not even showing my screen. Okay, here we are. Are keyword tools reliable? Is search volume data accurate? Both of these queries were people also ask suggestions. And I get these kinds of questions from people in my niche as well, right? So there's multiple things that led to me doing this blog post, but the most important thing was that I do see this question, are keyword tools reliable? Quite a lot in Google search results. So this is a post that I think within the first 2 weeks or so of publishing it, it got 1,500 or so readers, I think, to just this post. So this is the way to pursue individual topics within your niche. All right. Now, let us go back to, I want to give you just a quick kind of tutorial on how to use my, there I am, how to use my editorial calendar. So let's just stick with this example. I want to spend just 5 minutes or so on this, and then we'll hop over to properly spending some time in the Q&A together. And if we hang out a little bit longer than top of the hour, that's okay. So when I do my keyword cluster, so again, we have validated that self-care for men is the topic that we want to pursue as a niche, right? So let's look at the keyword cluster. This gives me the sense of how I could approach producing content in this space. So you could just copy and paste all of these bullet point items into your editorial calendar template as topics that you're considering publishing about, right? And the point here is to have ideas that you can draw from anytime. As a creator myself, I know I don't always know exactly what I want to write about or create a video about. Sometimes I need that inspiration. And so I like to just have a backlog of lots of ideas usually that allow me to, I realize I'm making edits here to the sheet that all of you guys have access to. So I'm going to take my own advice and make a copy. Let's say live demo, make a copy. And now we've got one that's going to be just my own personal calendar template rather than making changes to the one that everyone's going to get. As we can see, we've got this in here already. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete that real quick so that not everyone who gets this calendar is going to be suggested to write about self-care for men. So here we go. Keyword cluster, right? We want to grab some of these topics and pull in what the monthly search volume is for each of them. So let's just say men's workout routines. We don't want to spend a ton of time on this right now since our time's limited together, but let's say men's workout routines. We'll come back to keyword research. I'm just going to open this in a new tab so we're nice and organized. And then what I'll do is I'll hit submit. I'll leave my country as US because that's where I am. And here we go. We can see that, yes, there is a lot of activity on this search term. And when I'm looking at individual topics like this, again, our intent here is to create blog posts that we will have a likely chance of ranking for. Now, I like to sort competition by low and see what comes up here. And then we will see these are the kinds of terms that have less volume. These are long tail keyword terms. They have less volume, but they have a lot less competition, which means especially as a new site, you will have a much higher chance of ranking for men's workout routine to get lean. That's a really specific term, right? But you're going to have a much greater chance, especially if you're doing video and a blog post, of getting an audience for that kind of term. Now, this says monthly volume is suggested around 20 people a month searching for this term. I'm going to say right now that that's low. That's on the low side for sure. Again, these keyword tools, they are directionally useful and somewhat reliable. There will always be unexpected stuff that happens here. I would take all of these volume suggestions with a grain of salt, always, no matter what. I would imagine that the audience for people searching this term is probably quite a bit more, actually. I would put this in the hundreds or thousands even a month, because what you get when you search for a term like this, let's just do it. Men's workout routine to get lean. When you search this term, you're going to get a bunch of results, right? We're going to see how many pages of results Google has for this, what the related searches are, right? There's clearly a lot of activity going on. Lance Armstrong's site, Men's Journal, Muscle and Strength, Men's Health. These are all huge sites. So this is something where there is clearly a lot of action on this term. And we got video results here, which is great. This is a good insight. This says if you're going to create content about this, creating video content is a very good idea here. But we can just keep scrolling if you want, gather more insights. But the purpose here is to show you that there's way more than 20 people searching a month for this. So again, this is just kind of a sense for making sure that we will actually have an audience for a particular blog post, which I feel pretty confident we do. Now, that doesn't look pretty now, does it? Black background. There we go. So I would take some time here. And if we were going to build out a full editorial calendar, I'd need hours with you. We don't have hours today. But what I would do is I would sort of just take my stab under the description/outline tab here, how I want to approach this topic. And for something like how do I take care of myself as a man, I think this is an important one that I would want to share personal insights, process, tips, and I'd want to interview experts from different fields. Now, monthly search volume. How do I take care of myself as a man? Let's come back here to keyword research and let's plug this one in. We do have our search volume for this men's workout routine to get lean. So we'll drop that in there. This one suggested, again, men's workout routine to get lean, suggested 20. I think that is so low based on just doing a search. So I will probably juice this up a little bit. I'm just going to say 500. And then I'll determine what is the importance of this. What's the value to me, to my site, to the audience that I want to attract? I'd put this probably at medium because self-care for men, I'm thinking is going to be, the way that I would approach this is going to be a little bit more about mental health self-care for me, other than just, workout routines. But how do I take care of myself as a man? This is like a pillar topic for a self-care men's blog. So this is very important. And let's come back and see. What do we got here? How do I take care of myself as a man? We got some Kevin Hart keywords here. That's so interesting. So this particular keyword result doesn't give us something super useful, right? And when you get into more niche topics like this, asking really specific queries, again, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is a 10-word keyword. You may not get very good, useful, reliable keyword results from any tool. Now, I definitely recommend trying a bunch of different tools, seeing what you get, seeing what happens. But to estimate the monthly search volume for something like this, I'd probably just come back to a Google search and I'd want to just paste this in. And again, this is not stuff where you're guaranteed to get a clear 500 or 1,000 or 5 million estimated search for every time. So I'll want to check out what is currently ranking, how many people are going after this kinds of content, and I'll come up with my best guess essentially. So let's see what we got here. We got videos, and again, any search you do on Google, you're learning so much. This is a lot of really good stuff here. You can see there was some Reddit, some Quora stuff where you'll be able to chime in as that expert with experience here. So don't sleep on forums as a place to really build up your authority, your reputation, and capture some audience. So I'm not really seeing a clear sense of how to quantify the amount of searches for this. So maybe we'll come back to my keyword tool here. Let's see if we get any results or if we're going to get the nearest Wells Fargo ATM. So we get the same results essentially as what we got in the Right Blogger one. We do have some database overlap there. So this is a term where, we're going to make our best guess. I'm going to say, based on what I saw from that Google search, I'm just going to estimate this as probably somewhere around 5,000 is the traffic that we could expect to get. This could be totally and completely wrong. This could be a term that has the potential to drive 20,000, 50,000. It could be 1,000 or 500. I'm not going to be completely sure about every single keyword phrase that we put into our editorial calendar. But the purpose of building out a content calendar is to have topics that are going to relate to real people. And if you're too data-driven about this, you will never choose all of the right topics that real humans are searching for. You'll just choose things that keyword tools suggest. So this is where you as a human have a leg up over tools that are AI powered that are going to suggest things to go for from just a data perspective. Whereas, something like how do I take care of myself as a man might be a search that a lot of men are actually searching for. And AI tools, keyword research tools may just not pick up on it. So I know we're a bit low on time, but I want to make sure that we do spend some time on Q&A. So let me come back to, all right, I got just my view up here. Now let me grab the comments. Sweet. Oh, we've got some good questions here I'm seeing already, right? Very good comments. All right, so two of you guys ask, yeah, you're super interested in this, right? So at what time do you decide, let me pull this up on screen. All right, this is a very good one. At what time do you decide to stop going down the rabbit hole? It seems like keyword research doesn't end. That's where I get stuck. Yes. So I want to high five you and say that keyword research doesn't end. It's an ongoing process. So use this as an opportunity to time box yourself. I've been creating content about blogging for the better part of a decade now, and it will never end for me. There's always more. And what I want to do is I want to really set aside time in my schedule to say, all right, once a week for 1 hour, I'm going to spend time on doing some keyword research. Are there any topics? I do a lot of gut feel choosing of topics these days because I've been doing it for so long within my niche that I have a pretty good sense. And readers ask me questions, people from YouTube ask me questions. So I'm at a different stage than where you would be at if you're just beginning in a niche, where you do want to spend more of that regular time on research. So time box yourself. You can do keyword research for an hour and probably get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 validated topics that clearly have an audience and other sites going after that content. So I know you can feel like you can get stuck here. Use it as an opportunity to just cut yourself off because it is an endless rabbit hole. My keywords lead to mega sites and are hard to compete. Guess the best I can hope for is to find long tail keywords that have some volume. Steve, you got that right. You want to approach long tail topics only. If you're going to be competing in a space that's, looking at this example of self-care for men that we did here today, if you're competing against WebMD, Men's Health, Muscle and Fitness for absolutely every topic, that's going to be a losing battle with a brand new site. I can almost guarantee it. Now, there's other things you could do. You could create content on YouTube where discovery is not as closely tied to your authority on your website. You could have a podcast in your space that will be a bit more of a slow build to attract an audience, but it's a very viable way to build an audience in a space. So look at what your own unique skills are, your strengths, your experiences that you can bring to the table and create content in ways that do stand out from a lot of the mega sites out there. But as you aptly noted, long tail keywords are going to be the holy grail. Now, I have a video and guide that I want to share with you guys on the topic of long tail keywords because I expand a lot on this one. Let's just see. Do we have my screen? There we have my screen. Okay. So I'm going to drop the link to this one in the comments. If you want to do a bit more of a deep dive yourself on long tail keywords, this is a post and a video that Andy and I just did pretty recently from a few months ago that talks about how to identify, prioritize, pursue long tail keywords. That way we don't need to belabor it here in our live sesh. So let's come back to the Q&A. All right, guys. Once you have a list, you can actually ask them what kind of information they'd like to see in your blog or as a product. Yes, spot on. And that list doesn't have to be huge. In fact, it can often be more valuable to have a small list. And if those people are active, if you welcome each individual new subscriber with a personal note and ask them, how best can I help you? Often people will respond to that kind of really personal touch with a creator. So definitely consider that as listening to your audience. That's one of the best ways to get real actionable content ideas in any space. All right, Nada asks, okay, after I found my niche, how to write the blog post that's going to rank on Google. Could you recommend some AI writer content about this? Okay, so this is the topic that we could spend hours, days, weeks on, right? Now, I would rather point you towards some resources. If you just go to my blog, ryrob.com, and you hit that search button in the upper right, and if you search AI blogging, I have a few different guides that are going to come up that will be really useful to you, that walk through my step-by-step process on how to create content using AI for some first drafts, yes, and how to get the most out of those tools in order to create content that will stand a chance of ranking. And over on the Right Blogger blog too, if you make your way there, there's a lot of useful content on that. Since you're here on my YouTube channel, check out some of my videos. I have a piece that I did pretty recently on YouTube that walks through my AI blogging process. It's about a 25-30 minute video, but it does go detailed through that exact process. So I do recommend checking that one out. Okay. Nada, you also ask, how do I know that this article is SEO friendly? When you get a piece, particularly from AI, if you use whether the free tool, the free AI article generator on my blog at ryrob.com/tools, or you use the free one inside Right Blogger, those are going to be first drafts. Those are often going to be pretty SEO dialed in because we spend a lot of time with the prompts behind the scenes to make sure that they do cover the SEO best practices that we train our AI model on. However, they will not be perfect. You will have to spend some time with them. You'll want to tune them up. And I have a bunch of guides on my site too, on ryrob.com. If you search up in that right-hand bar, search SEO, there's a couple of really good articles on how to develop your SEO best practices and more or less a checklist to follow along with. So definitely check that out. That's a good additional resource. All right, Pratibha, do you wait until, let's pull you up here. Do you wait until you reach a specific volume of audience before you go in for monetization strategies? Love this. Will you consider Pinterest for driving traffic to your site? Two very good questions. So the first one, yes, it does make sense to hold off until you have a little bit of an audience before monetizing. I wouldn't wait too long personally. I think leaning into the ways that you want to monetize is a thing to keep in mind. So rather than just saying, okay, I'm going to monetize my site the way that I see these other 5 to 10 creators doing it, think about how you want to monetize. Do you want to be a coach? Do you want to be a consultant? Do you want to teach courses, classes? Do you want to write books? Do you want to have a podcast that brands can sponsor? Do you want to have a YouTube channel? There's so many different ways. Do you want to do affiliate marketing? That's where I would start. How do I want to monetize with my audience so that you're setting up your creator ecosystem in a way that works for you? And some monetization strategies take longer, are more difficult than others. I think if you're looking for the quickest way to earn from a blog, a YouTube channel, a podcast, a website, it's always going to be selling your services. So if you have skills, expertise in the area that you're creating content around, being a one-to-one sort of contributor with someone else is always going to be the quickest way to make money from a site. That could be as a freelancer, that could be as a coach, a consultant, but you don't need a big audience in order to monetize like that. If you have some people consuming your content, watching your videos on YouTube or Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is, and you have a small percentage of them clicking through to your website, maybe joining your email list, ask them how you can best help. And just sticking with our example that we talked about here today, self-care for men, maybe that means being a personal coach to other men and helping them devise a self-care routine that does cross all those different topic areas, physical, mental, etc. That's the kind of like really hand curated stuff that if you do with a few people, you will learn a ton. Like you'll see trends, you'll see common themes, you'll see common struggles, mistakes people make, and that will also inform other ways that you can monetize. Maybe that means writing a book, or maybe that means selling a system, something that people can take on more of a course style level. So there's a lot of nuance to that. You also asked about Pinterest. I'm going to give you a short answer since we're already a little over on time and I want to get to more questions. Short answer, yes. Pinterest is a fantastic place to drive traffic to any blog or website if your audience in particular is going to be women, then it's a very good place to think about spending more time on. And if your content lends itself towards visual creations, images, right? Images do best on Pinterest, and designing images that correlate really closely to what you cover on your blog in a particular post or a video is going to be a great way to attract some of that audience. Now, Pinterest is a numbers game. You have to spend a lot of time on Pinterest. Pinterest has been a pretty meaningful source of traffic for me, but there was a long-term positive payoff to it. When I spent my first, 2-3 months on Pinterest, I wasn't getting much traffic at all. It really took several months of contributing multiple pins per week. Now, I would recommend creating Pinterest image variations for every post that you publish on your blog. If you're going to really take Pinterest seriously, let's say you're publishing 2 articles a week on your site. Make 5 to 10 different Pinterest style images for each of those articles. And that means you're publishing 10 to 20 pins per week on Pinterest that link back to your blog posts. This is a numbers game. You got to just put out good quality images, and eventually some will take off over time. Okay, let's see. We got some more. Oh yes, you guys are so great. I love this. So many good questions here today. All right. Would you use a Chrome extension to get search volume? It's not free though anymore. So I'm not sure which Chrome extension you're talking about here in particular. But I know there are some good ones out there. So short answer, yes, if you can find a good one, then go for it. I think like Surfer SEO, I don't know if it's free anymore. But I don't personally use Chrome extensions, myself for keyword research anymore. All right. What SEO plugin and WordPress theme do I suggest for blogging? Currently using Cadence. Yeah, Andy weighed in here. So Cadence is a great theme. We love it. Actually, we just published a post on the Right Blogger blog, I think yesterday, where we talked about our favorite WordPress themes. Cadence is number 1. And SEO, Yoast SEO is the one that I use. Andy uses it too. Using just the free version of it is going to be fine. I've never paid for Yoast, and I've been using it for over a decade, just the free version. It's done great. Rank Math is kind of the only other WordPress SEO plugin that I'd consider using, but you get essentially the same sort of results, the same sort of guidance and help from each of them. And quick note on those tools, they will probably always ask you if you want to upgrade to their Pro plan. They'll have some upsells and stuff kind of woven into the product. You won't need that. Get the most out of free, always. Okay, here we go. All right. Yeah, great call, Andy. We should add keyword research to the Right Blogger extension. That's on the list now. Okay, so we got time for a couple more questions here. I see a couple more I want to get to. Where do you suggest, let me pull this up. Where do you suggest we find content creators and entrepreneurs in our niche to collaborate with? You are asking the right questions today. So one of the best ways to grow an audience, let me pull up my screen because I want to show you a visual. Okay. One of the best ways to grow an audience. Let's talk about growing an audience. Here we go. So this post on the Right Blogger blog is going to steer you in the right direction. Whoa, here we go. We just blew everything up. There we are. All right. So I'm going to drop that link there because this is a great additional viewing and reading. So we got a video where Andy and I do talk about growing an audience here. Highly recommend checking this out because I talk about guest blogging. I talk about other types of collaborations to do, and I give you some more actionable steps on how to do this kind of stuff. So from my perspective, where I see the most results in finding other influencers, creators, collaborators to work with is just consuming content. So go to a Google search, type in something that you're considering creating content about, and see what some of those individual creators are who are already ranking for those terms that you yourself want to rank for. And again, there's no such thing as competitors in this space. I strongly believe that there's room for tons of people to approach the exact same niche and view each other as collaborators, because you yourself are going to bring such a different, unique take to any niche that you're creating content in based on your own lived life experiences. So really, you're going to reach a slightly different audience. You're going to resonate with different people than what that other creator will resonate with. So Google search, YouTube search, look at the content that's going viral in your space using hashtags on, say, Instagram or TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever your audience spends time or you think they spend time. Look at the creators who are already doing the kinds of content that you want to do. Okay. So let's see. All right. Keywords everywhere. Yes. Good rec. And then we want to add that to Right Blogger's Chrome extension. I think that'd be great. All right. A couple more questions. When niching down, how do you keep coming up with fresh content? This is a great question. So keyword research can provide that, but I find inspiration from other creators in my niche all the time. And I think talking to your audience is a great place to come from always. Once you have an audience, that's one of the best ways. Go to places or events, in-person meetups with other people that are in your space or interested in the same things you are. So let's talk about hiking. I have a hiking blog, right? I hike all the time in Colorado. I have new friends that I make that I just meet on hikes, or I go on hikes with these friends. And so I'll get inspiration, ideas from them. They'll ask me like, "Oh, those are cool boots. Where'd you get those boots?" And so maybe I'll post a review about the boots I have. Or I'll get ideas for other hikes I want to go on from other people. And then when I go on those hikes, I have a new hike I can write about, right? So doing stuff in real life, don't discount that. That's a great way to just have conversations with other people who share your interests, no matter where they're at on the spectrum of, if they just consume content, if they're other creators, but just finding ways you can learn from other people in your niche is going to be a great way to keep staying fresh. Okay. Here we go. That's it for today, everyone. Again, reminder, if you have any questions, if you have suggestions on other topics that you'd love to see some of these weekly live sessions on, let me know. I'm always going to be here. I'm going to drop my email into the comments as we wrap up our session here today. I'm just Ryan at rightblogger.com. If you want to follow up with me, if you have some questions based on our session today, or you want to share some suggestions, I'd also really like to take some websites from y'all who are here participating in these live streams. I'd love to take your websites, because one of the live sessions I'd like to do here in the coming weeks or months is giving really specific breakdowns and recommendations on how I'd improve content on your site, or how I'd approach building out a larger audience in your niche. So I want to do what I like to call blog teardowns. They're kind. They will never be mean or geared towards degrading anyone. But if you have a site that you'd like me to do a kind blog teardown on, then please do shoot me an email to ryan@rightblogger.com, and I'm collecting a list of some sites that will be the topic of a future live session where I give some real-time advice on how to improve your website. So again, thank you all. I really appreciate your time. This was awesome, and I look forward to seeing you soon.